Thank you, Brian. And thank you, all of you club kids that came and shared the impact Brian had on you. Now we get to hear from the guy himself, the finest man on earth. You too.
Oh. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Holy samoli. You know, when it was time for me to let Diane and the rest of the staff know that I decided to retire, I said, you know, I'd really like something very intimate, small, maybe the staff and a few friends, lunch. You can see they never listen to what I say. So I had to make some bullet points here, otherwise I'd be all over the place, and you've been sitting a long time, and our band is going to have a second set coming up. Yeah. But first of all, and our sponsors for this event have been thanked before, but I just want to thank all of the sponsors for making this possible. This just does not happen without a lot of wonderful, caring, generous people, and you know, they're corporations, but they're people behind it that work at the companies that supported tonight to make this all possible. So my heart goes out to all of you that supported all this this event that is before us. Yeah, they're. And you know, this is the beer that you see is something that just ridiculous that I got a chance to brew 620 gallons of beer. I'm used to brewing 5 gallons at a time in Judy's stove, and everybody has to leave the house because they don't like it they don't like the smell of it. I think it smells great. It's, you know, so we've got a lot of good beer to drink. But I'd like to thank Tom Bullock and for an Amoskeag Beverage, and also Rob North at Great North Ale Works. Rob, yeah, is Rob here? I don't know. I haven't seen Rob. Rob, thank you so much. It was an experience of a life. Rob spent 6 hours with us. In the matter of 6 hours, Steve and I asked him 6,000 questions about brewing, and he answered everyone with a smile. It was just an awesome experience. And then canning, who knew that that's how beer gets in a can? I had no idea. But. So our friends at Amoskeag Beverage, Marissa, Ed Murphy, just unbelievable. So, and also, Tracy, you've all know what Tracy did for this, but also all of our staff, our program staff, and volunteers came in to put this all together, and there was no way it was going to be a secret because they had to ask if the band wanted to play, so it was great. So I got a chance to privy a little bit, yeah. So my wonderful family is why I'm here tonight, why I'm able to stand with you and join you tonight, because Judy really has been my champion, and my kids. As you know, when you're working at a Boys and Girls Club or any nonprofit, you know, your family, there's a certain measure of sacrifice that your family members, your spouse and your significant other and your children have to make. So when it comes time to picking, you know, between an event or something at the Boys and Girls Club and maybe a baseball game or a dance or something, sometimes that happens. So they've been doing that throughout their lifetime, and they allowed me to work at the Boys and Girls Club, and I thank my family. So there's another special group of people here tonight, and it's our staff, the Boys and Girls Club staff. You know, the word staff isn't really the right word for this. It's a family. This is my second family. And I was talking to someone just recently about our kids, the boys and girls that come to the club, like Rob. By the way, I have to tell, well, I'll talk about that later. I'm getting off my Mac. Oh, look, a bird. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just had to do that for. So our staff, we have 16 full-time salaried staff people at the Boys and Girls Club. 9 of those 16, 9 of those grew up at the Boys and Girls Club when they were 6 years old. Yeah. So, you know, Ken made a little joke tonight about my you know, the way that I focus on things, and there's no truth to that. You know that. So I think Antonio Feliciano is here. Is Antonio? Where's Antonio? Is he here? Antonio, come on over here, please. Come on up. While you're coming up, I'm going to talk a little bit. So Antonio Feliciano, and like the other 8 staff people on our full-time staff, grew up at the club. They make the most wonderful role models for the kids that come to the Boys and Girls Club because they lived it. And believe it or not, this is the man right here that runs the, come on up, Union Street Clubhouse. So I wanted to, come on up. Thank you, Antonio. So Ken made some jokes right over here. Yeah, thank you.
I wasn't supposed to be part of the show.
Yeah. So this is Antonio Feliciano, grew up at the club, Union Street man. He's the man. So Ken said that I have a problem with remembering things like this. So if you look at my arms, I have nothing on my arm here. There's nothing here, right? So Antonio has such a problem with his memory that he has a tattoo on his arm here. Can you explain this tattoo a little bit?
Sometimes I forget who my kids are.
Yeah. So this says Antonio Jr. on his wrist so he can remember his kid's name. Now this is a guy that can't remember anything. So you don't have, no.
Yeah,
Dylan.
Dylan's right here.
All right. So his second son, Dylan, is up here, just in case, you know. I just wanted to point out to you that I've got a great memory. This man has no memory. All right. I'll set you free.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. That's. So the fact of the matter is, I've kept this a big secret for 42 years. I have a photographic memory. I remember everything. It's just, I remember the last 42 years like it was just happened yesterday. And I'll, you know. So I've been here for 42 years, and I've had the pleasure of working under 3 executive directors, or CEO lately, or the latest version of our leadership. So Norm Penner, you've heard about us talk about Norm earlier. Norm, tell you a quick story about Norm. Tony, you heard Tony Trubiano called me. I was over in Keene. He said, hey, this job's opening up, Brian. You got to get over here and apply for this job. And yeah, so yeah, I knew Tony worked at the Boys Club, so I raced over here and I filled out the application, and I drove back to Keene, and I drove back the next day, and I met Mildred. That's who you want to know at the Boys and Girls Club. Mildred, yes. Mildred ran the front office, so you become friends with Mildred. So I just drove back and forth every day, and Mildred and I became soulmates. And so I got the job, and I found out later that the job came down to 2 people. There was another guy that applied for the same job, and his name was Gary Frost. So, yeah. So what happened was I got hired, and then, so I started working at the Boys and Girls Club, but I didn't know anyone. So one of our staff people was getting married, and I was in charge of Saturday morning Boys and Girls Club. 10 o'clock, doors open, biggest day of the week, 450 kids show up. I didn't know who was getting married, so I just said, I'll take care of the Boys and Girls Club. You staff, you go to the wedding, everything will be fine. Problem is, Friday night, Tony Chubiano calls me up and says, hey, Bri, you got to come celebrate with me. So, oh, why? Wow, I just had my first child's born. I had a boy, and Mick, and you got to come over. There's nobody else around, and Peggy's in the hospital. I'm home alone. I got cigars. I got tequila. Come on. So I go over to Tony's house Friday night. And he has a bottle of mariachi vodka. No, not vodka, tequila. I still have the bottle. Nothing in it. But that Friday night, we enjoyed that bottle of mariachi tequila. We smoked a couple cigars. I got home about 2:30 in the morning, and I had to be at the Boys and Girls Club at 10 o'clock to open it up so the rest of the staff could go to this wedding. Well, I knew it was going to be a problem for me getting up in the morning, so I went to bed with my sweats, my shirt, my sneakers. I left everything on, figuring, hey, I'll set the alarm, I'll bounce out of bed, drive to the club, I'll be good. Problem is, never heard the alarm. So now I've only worked there like a month or two, right? So I don't know how I woke up, but my eyes just popped open. I looked at the clock. It was 10 o'clock. The club is open. There's a bunch, I knew my fellow workers were waiting to go to this wedding. They couldn't go until I showed up. So I bounded out of bed, ran out the door, drove down to the club, pulled in front of the club, and I looked, and there in the window is Dick Jarvis. I don't know if Dick's still here. Dick's 81 years old. Yeah. So Dick Jarvis is standing, looking out the window in Union Street, waiting for me to come. Well, everybody else is dressed up in suits. They're waiting to go to this wedding. And I was driving a motorcycle at the time. I'm riding a motorcycle. I take my helmet off, and I look up, and there's Dick. And he's looking out the window at me, and he does not look happy because he wants to go to the wedding. So I'm just feeling so bad about this. I can't believe I just did this. So I go up to the door like this. Dick opens the door, and he looks at me with a big scowl on his face, and he says, Mr. Penner wants to talk to you now. And I'm like scared to death, right? So I take 2 steps toward Mr. Penner's office, and Dick says, Brian, here, you better take these. And he hands me a roll of lifesavers. Peppermint. You better take these before you go into Norm's office. So I popped open the pack, and I walk in, and there's Norm Penner in his office. He says, shut the door. Yes, okay, yeah, I'll shut the door, Mr. Penner. And he's pacing back and forth. It's not a big office either, so he was like, I couldn't even keep up with him. And he's pacing back and forth, and he looks at me, he says, I wish you were my son, because I'd paddle your butt right now, you know? I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Penner, I'm sorry, Mr. Penner, I'm really sorry. He said, well, we're gonna talk about this when I come back, you know, we gotta talk about this, something's gotta change. I said, yes, Mr. Penner, I'm sorry, Mr. Penner. So he goes out the door, and off to the wedding they go, and my head is maybe this big. I'm just from the tequila the night before. And so we had 450 kids. We had a great day at the Boys and Girls Club. And so anyway, the end of the story is that I'm thankful that following Monday that Mr. Penner decided he'd better keep me working at the Boys and Girls Club, and had he not decided that, then we might not even be here tonight. Who knows? But that was my introduction to Norm Penner, and yeah. So he also told me the following week, he said, I might have made a big mistake picking you over this other guy, Gary Frost. So fortunately for us, he, the following year, he hired Gary, and that's, you know, the rest is history. So Tony, I've got the bottle. I'm going to refill it with mariachi tequila, and we'll redo that all over again someday. So the last thing that I would like to leave you with, because we've been sitting a long time, but I just have to tell you that this entire event and everything that you've heard tonight really is all about children. Everything we do is all about children, because all of the children are watching us. Everything we do, everywhere we go, they watch us, and they're seeing how we look at one another. They're seeing how we treat one another. And these are kids of all ages. A child that's 4 years old is incredibly intelligent, and they're just like sponges. And what they see us do is part of who they form as older children and middle school children and high school children. And so I would like to give you a challenge. I've done this before, but I'd like to give you a challenge that when you're stuck behind a school bus, and some of you have heard this, when you're stuck behind a school bus and you're on your way to work and everything is flying by you 100 miles an hour, things are just confusing your life and you're thinking about 10 things at the same time, but you're behind the school bus at a stoplight and you look up and there it is. There's a little boy and a little girl in that school bus window. And sometimes what's coming out of that window right at your eyes is not very nice. If that hasn't happened to you yet, it probably will sometime. So here's what you do. You catch their eye, you look them right in the eye, and you smile at them. Now remember, I said it doesn't matter what they're doing, right? Forget that. You smile at them, and you just give them a wave, and then go about your business. And my promise to you is that that night, when that child goes to bed, and their head hits the pillow, no matter what happened in their day, the last thing they're going to remember is what you did for them out of the window of your car. And so try that, and you know where to get me. I'm at the Boys and Girls Club. When it happens to you, call us, call me. I want to hear your story, because it will happen to you. So you've been here a long time, and thank you for your patience. I love you all. I'm blessed beyond measure, and thank you for your kindness.
Oh, what the hell, sit down. We're done, though. I do want to thank you all again for attending. Don't forget, up back, there's a place where you can write notes or messages to Brian, and we'll put a compilation together for him. I do have a request from Marissa. We'd like anyone who's an alum of the club to come up here so we can get a photo with Brian. So you can start coming up now, because we're going to have a video in a second to show you some more memories from Brian. But probably not, right? We don't. Whatever. And then we're going to hear again from Permanent Vacation, and we're going to have dancing and fun. And thank you all again for coming. Alums, please come up here right now for a photo. Thank you.